in if you're willing to see me.
Thank you for joining us. See the usual suspects, if you will. Anybody else new to the call?
Yes, good morning. My name is Christina Zarati. I work for Per Scholas. We provide IT training to adults, tuition free to them. I've met Leslie a few times via Zoom, and this is my first time being able to join one of the coalition meetings. So good morning, everyone.
Good morning. And can I ask, what side of the state line are you on?
Yeah, we are in Casey, Missouri. We're in Westport.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. We have also quite a few other people looking. Anybody else new to the call? All right, at the end, you see the agenda. You should have received an updated agenda. We will have an opportunity for community announcements and information. So if you have something going on with your organization you would like the coalition to know about, if you have a flyer you would like to show, you are more than welcome at that time to do that as well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So today we're going to have discussion groups as we sent out in the email. And so in anticipation of the funding opportunities that are coming up, we would like to start discussion on how can the coalition support the work that you're doing and what are the needs of our community. So we've got 3 discussion groups: education, workforce development, and digital skills training. So we're going to have those breakout rooms. We were going to do a self-select. Right now we're at how many people? We're at 22 people. So we're just going to randomly break you out into a room for 20 minutes to have that discussion, and then we will come back together and report out the conversation. And there might be some more organic conversations as a result of our report out, and then we'll move on to some updates for broadband and then some community announcements. Okay, I'm ready for the slideshow, Wendy.
Do you see it okay?
Yes,
Hey,
ma'am.
Ina, can
I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. I just raised my hand real quick. I just wanted to jump in because I realized there's somebody who's not on this call who normally is. And I think it's important for us to know what's going on. Carrie Coogan, who's one of the steering council members for the Kansas City Public Library, is not able to join us today because Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor is visiting Kansas City, and the Supreme Court asked the Kansas City Public Library to be her host. She's a children's book author, and she's written a book about kids with disabilities. She'll be doing a workshop tomorrow morning. And I just wanted to bring that up because typically Carrie would be on this call, but our library system is just one of the best ones in the country. And I just think it's so cool. And for security reasons, I don't think there was a lot of publicity about this visit from the Supreme Court Justice, but that's going on right now. And I think there will be news reports about it later today and things like that. So I just thought it was kind of cool, and I wanted everybody to know.
Yep. Thank you. I knew she was here. Didn't know why, but thank you for making that announcement. I'm sure she would definitely forgive you if you weren't supposed to. But yeah, that is the reason why Carrie's not here. All right, so today we're talking about building a better coalition. Next slide. And so what is coalition building? Like I said, I thought we'd come back, circle the wagon again, just kind of get back to what is the Kansas City Coalition for Digital Inclusion. What are we about? We're a coalition of members. We know that. We have about 80, I think, 80 to 90 coalition member organizations / individuals. So a coalition brings together different groups to achieve a common goal. It happens frequently when different individuals or organizations share goals, values, and interests. And I think we definitely have done that. But again, how can we be better? Next slide. Coalitions come together to share a set of traits, We work together as a group. We form specific and often limited reasons to work together for an advanced cause, managed by consensus, by outside of any organization structure. So we're going to focus more on that in the next couple of months. What do the members want? And then how can we do that? There's no formal structure, if you will, to coalitions. Participation is definitely voluntary and efforts focus externally. So we don't focus so much on what's going on inside the coalition. We try to look at what need are we feeling and what cause are we advocating for. And we know that we're advocating for digital inclusion in the greater Kansas City area, including both Missouri and Kansas. So what are our goals? We need to have specific goals that go beyond platitudes. The more specific your ask is, the easier for everyone will be able to measure what progress are we making towards that goal. And so we are the stakeholders. Coalition members are the people who will come together on a consensus to target what are we trying to accomplish. Next. All right, so we're going to have discussion groups. And so the breakout facilitators, we've got me in the area of education. I think the coalition can be more engaged in education. Workforce development, I must engage Aaron Deacon. Were you able to identify somebody?
Leah, are you wanting to? I mean, I thought you were going to put out a call, Ina, just to the group. But if you don't want to do that and you don't want to see if someone wants to jump in there, are happy to provide someone to moderate that. It'll be Leah or me probably.
Okay, let me do that first. So what he's saying, I did reach out to an organization that was short-staffed. I didn't find out until late yesterday, so I was not able to identify somebody in advance for workforce development, but as a part of a coalition, if anybody would like to leave that breakout room who's on the call right now, feel free to raise your hand. Don't be shy. And we're going to give you this set of questions, and so you would just simply facilitate that conversation in that breakout room. Okay, no takers?
Sure, I'll do it. I'll do it, Ina. I'll do it. Put me in there. Put me in the game, coach. Put me in the game.
So, all right, so Mr. Yancey, each session is 20 minutes.
Okay.
You'll have the questions I'm about to put up here. And so with that in mind, everybody keep in mind, 20 minutes, and I think by default, Wendy's got the room set. So again, we'll break out into these different rooms, and then we'll come back together for a report out. Okay? Does anybody raise your hand, please, if you have any questions before we go to our breakouts? All right, Miss Wendy, let's.
Guys, and I see Amy's on the call. We might want to give them an opportunity to share some things with us while we have them, because there's so much going on in their space. I want to, that would be my.
Well, they've been reporting every meeting, so we'll see what they have any updates from 4 weeks ago. Are you, let's do ladies first. Kimberlyn Jones, are you still on the call?
Yes, I am still on the call.
All right, would you like to report out for Kansas, please? Any updates?
Right now on the digital equity side, we're still waiting on our capacity grant or our capacity application. We did get notification of a little curing that we needed to do, but we're still waiting on that. I think August 28th, the NTIA was supposed to have everything out by then. So at the earliest, if you will, it would be August the 28th, but we're hoping to get that back really soon. We received the NOFO for the competitive grant last week and on the 24th. So we are currently reviewing that. we just last week wrapped up the Adopt program, which is our public Wi-Fi and equipment distribution grant. So we wrapped up all the kickoff webinars and executed the contracts. So we're getting started on those projects. And next week we will have the kickoff webinar for the awardees for the digital skills training. I would like to ask and promote that we are doing a second round of what we call DOC, Digital Opportunities Connecting Kansas. So we are launching 2.0, but we didn't have full participation the first round. So there are some suggestions that we are waiting on approval from our LG to just suggestions to make it more enticing to increase participation across the state of Kansas. And so we're waiting on his green light to launch Doc 2. We will be working that not simultaneously with Adopt anymore. We will just be working with the digital skills grant right now. I attended Wichita yesterday, Community Foundations Leads. They had a convening in Wichita. And so we are gathering partnerships, collaborations, and figuring out how to work with organizations such as community foundations, how to promote digital skills, how to work policy and talk to legislatures. We're really trying to get this ACP thing back in the air, if you will. And so for affordability, because 133,000 Kansans lost connection with the exit of ACP. So that's continuous work. There are some bag and bead items going. Of course, that's a different wheelhouse than mine, but it is essential to the work that I do in laying out the infrastructure so that we can afford it. We can get equipment to use it. And in the group that I was in, digital skills is essential. We continue to focus on targeted populations, i.e. the aging, low income, language barriers, lot of Hispanics and different cultures in the state of Kansas at the meat packing plants that we're trying to figure out solutions into one, trust, and to penetrate that population to get what they need in those communities. And oops, sorry, that's all I have right now.
Okay. You did go away for a minute there, but that's a lot. Thank you for that update. So what kind of traction, if any, is ACP revamp having? Are you being optimistic? Do you think, what is it?
Well, of course, we're being optimistic because when you look at the data and the stats of how many people depended on it, we either need to get it back or the ISPs, the service providers, need to find some kind of option and some kind of way to make it affordable. So it's got to give one way or the other. Yes, we're very optimistic. We are encouraging people to talk to their legislatures. I know it's a sensitive time now with it being election year. So of course, we're being optimistic because this is not something that's going backwards.
Right.
And when people can't connect digitally, it impacts everything. It impacts the way that they live. It impacts education. It impacts the workforce. It impacts healthcare. It impacts childcare. It impacts everything when people are not connected like they need to be. So yes, we have to be optimistic about it.
Thank you. Any questions for Kimberlyn? Anybody have any questions for Kimberlyn? Real quick, Tom, because we got to finish our agenda.
I have a question. Kim, with the digital equity capacity grant, I know you're getting curing back, and it should be settled before the end of August. Do you have any insights you can share with us about the process that the state of Kansas will use for allocating those capacity grant funds? In other words, are you going to be issuing your own NOFOs or RFPs? And if so, how will it align with the DOC grant that's going to be starting in round 2?
Yeah, we're working through that as a team because there's so many other things in front of us, if you will. But we will continue to focus on public Wi-Fi, equipment distribution, seeking out resources for equipment distribution. The LG is real concerned about participation throughout the state. We have some good participation on the eastern side of the state, but the western side of the state, we have to come up with some strategies to disperse that funding. And of course, we didn't receive the funding that we anticipated. So, you know, the old saying is you got to go back to the drawing board and figure out what's best and what makes the biggest impact for the state to meet the objectives that we set out in the capacity grant and to reach and touch those of the covered populations that are listed in our plan.
All right, thank you, Kimberlyn. Dimitri, are you ready? You're on deck. You have any information to update us on the state of Missouri?
Yes, I am here, happy to talk about some of the things that have taken place over the last few months. Also add a little bit to what Kimberlyn says. She always has such wonderful information. Kansas really setting the standard out there. You know, we're just trying our best to keep up. I think I'll start with the biggest
I didn't
news.
pay him to say that. I really didn't. But thank you so much. I did not pay him. Thank you, though, Dimitri. Nice to see you.
Always. But yeah, let's start with the biggest news. So for those of you who've been following NTIA's announcements this morning, you may have seen this, but we're very happy to say that our volume 2 has received NTIA approval. So that was a major accomplishment for us. I have done absolutely nothing to that. 100% of the credit is deserved by my colleague Adam Thorpe. So if you see him out and about, please give him a hug, you know, pat on the back. He really deserves it. But that's a big deal. Like I said, we now have 365 days to determine our awards and get this money out the door in the broadband infrastructure laid. We're excited to do it. Also on the other side, on the DEA side, more my wheelhouse. We are constantly working, just like Kansas. We have gone through 2 small rounds of curing. This is definitely cheating, but I've been speaking with a few of the other state offices across the country, so I've got a little bit of information. Amy, I'm not going to say who this is, so I don't get anyone in trouble, but I do have some info. So as Kimberlyn was saying, by statute, NTIA has to make their first award by August 28th, but I do think that may have already passed because their award to Nevada has already been made. And so then building up on that, speaking with folks who have been approved and their timeline, I think the general estimate is that most of these awards will be out the door in the month of October. I am not the federal government. This is not me stating for a fact, but these are the heavy hints that I've been getting, and we're working towards that. Me personally, on my side of the office, I have been working on guidelines for our digital opportunity grant program. As soon as we get our funds, we are going to start accepting applications. We want to get this up and rolling by January of next year. That's the day we're aiming for. And then again, we are not a service organization here at MoOBD. So every dollar we get that doesn't have to be spent on our personnel will be going out. And like I said, working on those guidelines. I think draft guidelines are about 90% complete, but there's a whole host of folks with better titles than mine who have to give some approval before we can release those. But we'll be doing public comment on that. So, you know, anyone who is interested will have an opportunity to let us know what you need, what you want, and where we're going. I think that pretty much wraps it up on my side, but happy to take any questions on any of the specifics.
Questions or comments for Dimitri?
Yes, I have a question here for Dimitri and one for Kim as well. So Dimitri, is your initial focus going to be local or is it going to be statewide for your disbursement of funds?
So we're going to do both. Excuse me. So people who've heard me speak before know that our approach was going to be the local, the statewide, and the telehealth component. Given the reduced allocation for the fiscal year 25 version of the program, this first iteration, we're going to do approximately, again, these are estimates. Nothing is finalized until guidelines are released. I want to very much emphasize that these are not set in stone. Please keep an eye out for guidelines, but we are estimating at this point about $3 million total for 2 years worth of local grants, about $10 million for 4 years of statewide grants. And then going forward in fiscal year 26, fiscal year 27, we will shift that focus so that there's a much higher proportion for local grants in both of those iterations. And then also there will be the telehealth component.
Okay, very logical, makes sense. And then Kim, question for
Yeah.
Kim.
Ours will be distributed across the entire state.
Entire state.
You know, it is a rural area, and during our visits and roadshows and engagements with the communities, there's a grave need to address their issues, their concerns, and some of them are very, very basic, as Leslie mentioned, as far as digital skills is concerned. We are really focused across the state.
Okay.
It's a grave need.
Great. So Kimberly, back to your doc and your capacity. Is it a requirement to be a licensed entity in Kansas to apply for those funds?
What do you mean? Is it licensed to, I mean, is it required to be a licensed entity?
Licensed, or having a license to operate, to do business in the state of Kansas. Is that a requirement?
It needs to be a Kansas business or organization, entity, association.
Okay.
Yes, it does. I
Okay.
mean,
Wait,
you need to,
Kim, do you need a Kansas address or can you be serving Kansas?
Well,
you can
that's
serve Kansas. You know, that's part of some of the evaluation that the executive committee looks at is how much, you know, how much business or how much, how do you serve Kansas?
Okay.
And what
Okay.
percentage of what you do serves the state of Kansas. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Dimitri or Kim before we close out the state broadband discussion?
I
Yes.
just want to shout out a little appreciation. You all are doing a lot of hard work, and you keep hearing, how about now? Is it ready now? How about now? So thank you. And, you know, we're just raring to go. And that's why we're so excited and bugging you.
All right, thank you. All right, we have to stay on the agenda. And so where we at? We need to do our report outs, if you don't mind. I'll start with you, Yancy. You got 5 minutes for, if that. You got 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay. Now you sound like Terry. She counts my seconds. Okay. She said I talk too much. Anyway, I'll jump into it.
Just 3 minutes on the report out of the workforce development room.
Very good. No, just a wealth of resources and availability here in the local area. So I'll start with Ron Green. Ron has I think a phenomenal digital workforce development, because there's a lot of interest in what we call digital content creators, right? So again, everything is digital. I mean, I know the computers and literacy is very important, but the workforce development, that is job creation, cash flow creation. That's a very, very important tool to close the digital divide. Pedro, he's been doing some phenomenal things since 2009 in terms of digital workforce development. He has a whole slew of resources there that I wasn't aware of. Gabriel's been working on it since digital workforce development since 2018. He's got a whole program that he's based on some federal government documentation. The library, they've got tons of resources, but they are looking for some direction and some resources that maybe I think Tom could provide. So Tom provided his link in the group. And then from Essential Families perspective, we've got 272 people in our database on our wait list that want to be digital content creators. They work from home, of course, during the pandemic. Now they're back at work. So they're looking either for a side hustle or to do it full time. And I think what I heard from Ron and Pedro and and Gabriel, even the library, the resources are here, but they just don't know about it. So talk about a disconnect. There's a significant disconnect relative to digital workforce development. In other words, job creation. That's what we're talking about here. And last thing, the current NOFO has it in there. So it talks about, computers and literacy, but it has a workforce development component in there. And the capacity and, well, let me be clear, the competitive grant that's on the table. I haven't looked at the capacity, but the competitive has workforce development in there. That's it. That's it. How did I do?
Thank you. Questions for Ken in regards to their breakout discussion on workforce development? Based on what he just said, or somebody else from that group would like to share something he didn't say.
Ron, you may want to put your link in this chat here, because Ron has something, in my opinion. He's got something over there that can create some jobs. Okay, so.
Yeah, Ron has been consistent in the promoting the digital scene here in the creative digital scene here in Kansas City, organizing networks, and he's working on some innovative stuff right now of a hub of creators. I don't know if you mentioned that. So stay tuned for Ron Green. You want to say something, Ron?
The only thing I'll mention is, as long as I've been working on this, and many of you are aware of what's going on, it is downright hard to get the resources to actually do what you need to do, and the city needs. So if these NOFOs open up opportunities for organizations like ours, we need it. We need it badly, or we're going to fold. That's the honest truth.
You have a networking event coming up, or a conference or something?
Yeah, I'll put the conference link in the link for everybody. We have some very interesting speakers coming, and the page I'm putting in here will tell you all you need to know about it. Hope you can join us September 24th at Kaufman.
Okay. I want to segue on something that Ken said, where the education breakout discussed. Does education even know what's out there? Do they understand the opportunities or the career pathways that are available for their students now? And so our answer was no. And so they kind of get, pigeonholed in education, what they're doing, K through 12, not knowing that there's this whole world out here of digital resources. So what Tony and I guess, I don't know who else, ever else agreed, but we think the coalition should host a meeting. Let's get educators together. Let's let them know, here's what's available. Just like with Ron, I've seen him for years. He's got all these resources to provide kids career pathways, but do the schools even know about it? His conferences should be packed. I know the work that I do, K through 12, focusing on K through 5, trying to plant those seeds so that they know there's a drone career. They know there's a virtual reality career, esports, AI. When you say AI careers, do these kids even know what that means? And are the schools even prepared to teach those classes? And if so, at what level? And so again, not to compare between school districts of a, urban school district and a suburban school district. But I think the reality is the suburban school districts are getting that content to their kids to help prepare them. Yeah. And so that's something that we came out with that I will definitely follow up, some kind of broadband education, digital skills training summit, just to make the schools aware of the resources. You don't know what you don't know. And so I think we have to take the lead on making sure that they know. And it might be something once a quarter, not just a one-time thing, because one-time thing, somebody might not attend, somebody might forget what was said. So if we are, as a coalition, one of the traits that I showed earlier was to advocate. Yeah. So we need to advocate for this space that we are in, and to make sure that other organizations who could take advantage of what we have as a clearinghouse of information know what's out there. So that is the education breakout. Anybody want to add anything to that?
No,
I know, I just want to say that I'd be really interested in following up with you. This is this kind of summit is something I've been talking about for a couple years. And
Yep.
so it's exciting to hear. You know, sometimes you start to think your baby's ugly when you can't seem to get it off the ground, but it sounds like it isn't. So
I think this is a clear action item. We just in the discussion we had for 15 minutes, we identified a half a dozen terrific organizations that are so busy doing that they're not necessarily out there showcasing what they're doing with others. We need to put them in one room. So there's Tammy Buckner with We Code, and William and Gabriel and Pedro that Ken mentioned, Ina. Lots, and I think there's a lot of power in getting them together. What Ron's doing, and it's interesting. We have the breakouts, education and workforce development, but they go together. So you know, let's get in one room and really talk about it for, you know, maybe in a couple hours. Really get a good feel for what everybody's doing and it's always good to end those with, who else do you know that we're missing?
So
I might add that on that for that education group that just had that conversation, we have, Ina mentioned we have a program called Digital Scene KC events. They are every other month for digital media professionals and educators. It's not open to the general public, but our November Digital Scene KC event is going to be at Operation Breakthrough, and its topic is STEAM education. And we will be inviting 10 STEAM organizations like KC STEM Alliance, like William over at A-STEAM, and others to showcase what they have to offer so that the digital media community and digital media educators are aware of what's out there and how they can kind of tap into those programs.
I'd just like to add that I understand y'all are talking about the educators and the teachers, right? It starts at home. So wherever the kids are at, meaning like if they're at the school, we should be going to their events, because a lot of our families don't have transportation or whatnot. So everything you all are saying is wonderful. I agree with it totally. But if a school is already having like a parent meeting, I'm just throwing something out there, we need to be on their agenda to expose ourselves while the parents are there, because it's not up to the teachers to teach these kids. It's not. And I'm an educator and I'm in early childhood. It starts with what the parents are doing at home as well. So I just want to point that out while we're trying to form all these educational meetings and bringing the teachers there. You need to bring these families there, but you need to also go where the families are already at the schools. Let's go to their parent meetings at these different schools and introduce ourselves to, hey, we're here, because a lot of times the parents may not have transportation to get them there anyway. So I'm just putting something on people's radar. It's great to have coalitions and meetings with all the educators, but as an educator, it's not totally up to me to teach these kids there. I'll just put that there. That's my 2 cents. I usually don't have nothing to say, but that's been something I need to say. I'm done.
That was a lot more than 2 cents. You're right on. That's terrific. 100% agree. 100% agree.
Well,
and there's so many needs out there. I can definitely see, you know, a conference with educators, a conference with parents. I mean, again, that's something we as a coalition have to decide. Are these the spaces and the types of the advocacy that we would like to do to serve not only our member community, but then the greater community? Because that's our goal, to advocate for access to the internet. Like Kim is saying, they have needs in Kansas. You know, ACP is now no longer there. Do we just leave those families high and dry? So in the meantime, is there a solution that we can come up with that can help respond? You know, do we meet with the ISPs? Do we say, hey, what are you going to do? You know, do we meet with the municipalities and say, you know, your constituents have needs? And so, now this is probably me thinking too much, but so we need to decide, what kind of coalition are we going to be? You know, are we going to meet every first Friday and talk, or are we going to be a little bit more active, a little bit more engaged, and try to help with the needs of what we know our community needs? All right.
And let me throw something in real quick, because you all know my background, my background in terms of digital marketing. I will volunteer to help this coalition identify the correct audience. So what we're talking about, you all, the target audience is your Gen Zs and your Gen Xs, right? And they understand two things. It's called TikTok and it's called Instagram. That's where they're at. So this content creation that Ron has, they may not understand the technical infrastructure that you're talking about, Ron, but they understand TikTok. So let's break down, what is TikTok? What does it take to make a TikTok video? What does it take to market your TikTok video? So I will offer that to this coalition because it's all hands on deck right now. That's how we're operating, right? I've been doing this stuff a long time. Tom has been doing it a long time. And this is it, folks, okay? I'm 59 years old. I was doing this stuff at 29 years. I'm not going to be doing this at 89, okay? Leslie, stop.
Offering, Ken, just my clarification, when you say you're offering, that would be something that you do under the umbrella of the coalition.
Yes, I would. I will offer you our full digital marketing platform to reach these Gen Zs, back to Terry's point, reach the Gen Zs, the Gen Xs, to get them excited, to tell their mamas and daddies, hey, I can learn how to do TikTok. I can learn how to make money with TikTok, Instagram. That's what they like. That's what we're.
We'll talk offline. We'll get that scheduled sometime this fall during the school year, okay?
Good. I'm here. I'm here.
I got 21 people on the call. Everybody heard Ken Yancey just say he commits to doing a workshop, series of workshops, I don't know, under the umbrella of the Kansas City Coalition for Digital Inclusion. Everybody, can I get an amen?
Amen. Amen. I'll do it. I look forward to it. I like it. It's just a lot of resources here. Tom and Ron, you guys got my attention. That's all I can say.
Okay, we did education, we did workforce development, and who's left?
Digital skills.
Good. Leslie Scott is on deck.
I am happy to do it if no one else wants to.
No, you did the breakout, didn't you?
I did.
Did we get a report out on the breakout?
Sure. So basically, we acknowledged that there is a, there may be programs offering basic digital skills and then more advanced ones, but the missing middle, even something as fundamental as naming and storing your files on Google Drive, might not be skills that that some people have and are certainly needed on the job. Other areas that we identified were financial management and online safety. Some people have developed tools for these, like the Federal Reserve, and that it's become more important for people to understand, when you're getting scammed right now with the elections coming up, that it's important to know how to use your phone for telehealth and how to access your health portal. And then also, though we're focusing on technology, there's also a balance that we need to keep, and that we need to recognize that we need to walk away from tech sometimes. I think this is the research around kids and tech has become more and more in the news these days. There are challenges for older adults to do simple things like fill out forms, which can be barriers to resources like, home repair program or some other kind of program that could help them. That, people really do have a wide range of interests, even, within the range of skills that they're interested in. So some people might be more interested in the intermediate skills, some more advanced. So there's a range there. And that it can be hard to get people farther along in learning things in classes sometimes, because you have to address people who are at the very beginning. And so you can't get deeper with those who might have walked in with some basic level of understanding, because you're addressing that basic information with some. And that, from a policy perspective, just encouraging the DESE and I should know what it's called on the Kansas side, but I don't, but the state education departments to focus on computer skills and, making those classes count for, some of the math or the science requirements. And the schools could, really play a big role in making sure that that there are particular skills that are outlined, not just, I took a class in this, but identifying what those learning outcomes are going to be in the class, so that they are that those learning outcomes are identified as being useful in the future and currently. So those are the things we talked about.
Sounds good. Any questions or comments for Leslie? Or anybody in her breakout session want to add anything to that? All right, we are going to move on to, let me see, looks like, Tom, you've got 10 minutes to talk about the NTIA competitive grant.
All right, thanks, Ina. Hey, everybody. I am so excited to take a couple minutes to talk about this. I'm making an assumption that everyone on this call has heard or seen or read something about a notice of funding opportunity that was released by the NTIA last week on the 24th of July, and it has a deadline of September 23rd. These are large applications for a large grant. It's a federal grant. And I know that we as a coalition are so lucky to be in an area where we have so many assets. And the work of Kansas City Digital Drive in particular in the last couple of years is preparing us to have, I think, a really compelling application. And I think what I wanted to make sure that I knew you guys were aware of is, what is this funding opportunity? How does it compare to the things that we were just hearing Dimitri and Kim talk to us about relative to the capacity grants coming through each state office? And how can we make sure that our application is truly compelling and truly reflective of the leadership legacy that Kansas City has in this space? I mean, we've literally been doing this coalition work longer than most cities in the country. And now is our opportunity to make sure that we have a strong and compelling application. And I think I'll say one other kind of introductory comment, and that is, it would probably not serve our community well if we had more than one application coming from this region. In other words, these are so competitive. And if we just start with the main thing I wanted to review is what's in this NOFO. It's large grants. The target award is between $5 million and $12 million. There's also a very specific call out for the lead applicant to be an organization that has experience and capacity for managing federal grants of that magnitude. And there's a humongous opportunity for organizations that participate in a lot of the types of activities we're talking about: workforce development, education, devices, digital access, to collaborate and to demonstrate collaboration. And then lastly, it's such a clean and clear NOFO with respect to 8 covered populations. We've been talking about them for many weeks now. And so the first thing I just wanted to call out is some of the details of that NOFO. I just want to share one thing about the, I hope I'm sharing. One thing that's in this NOFO, it talks about partnerships, all right? And it encourages partnerships. And the partnerships are designed to do, this is what I want to call out. The development of broad partnerships will maximize the reach of the competitive grant program funding and minimize administrative overhead. Okay, I just wanted to call out that particular sentence. And that, I want that to be the lead in, because when you think about Kansas City's history of being involved in digital inclusion, it started with Google Fiber coming to town. There were a lot of things happening before that, but in terms of coalescing together as a community, it started when Google Fiber came to town. There was a lot of activity going on in the housing authorities. We did a lot of work through the libraries. We've continuously done work with workforce development agencies like the FEC and Workforce Partnership in Kansas, and Goodwill has a huge presence. And so now, as this opportunity is in front of us to put together this one compelling case, I have two questions for this group. We won't have time to make them a full discussion in this, but it's what I wanted to leave you with, which is two things. Number one, how can we make sure that the application from Kansas City is as compelling and cohesive as possible, so that we're reflecting all of the groups that are called out in the NOFO, and that we are truly reflecting the bounty of riches, for lack of a better term, that we have throughout this region in terms of assets, organizations that have been doing work that provides digital services to these covered populations. How can we make sure that that is captured best? And then number two, who is best situated? What organization is best situated to be the lead applicant according to the criteria in the NOFO? We have a very small number of organizations in Kansas City that even meet the criteria, but we can't afford, as a group, we can't afford to dictate who that is. I know Aaron and Leslie and Casey Digital Drive have been talking about this for several weeks. We need input. We need input from you and all the groups that you work with, because we can ill afford to put forward an application and then have another competitive application be submitted because someone felt like they weren't left out or their voice wasn't being heard. So I think the main reason I'm talking right now is just to make sure we all understand that. We have to support the work that Kansas City Digital Drive has been doing, and we need to respond to the call out for input. And we need to get as many people and organizations as we know who think that they may want and need to have a voice in this, but for whatever reason, maybe they haven't been participating. We need to make sure that they're participating. They've got input, because we cannot afford to have an application that leaves anyone in this area feeling like they don't have a voice, or at least they haven't been able to say, to Ron's point, resources are critical. And if there are groups that really need them, okay, you have to understand, maybe you're not, as your own nonprofit, eligible to apply for this grant, but you need to know who you can attach yourself to. Is it Goodwill? Is it the library? Is it the housing authority? Is it any number of the other types of kind of anchor institutions that are being called out in the NOFO? I think there was a link to the NOFO in the invite for this meeting. So please make sure you open it, make sure you read it. You don't need to read the whole 27 or 28 pages. The first 2 pages are probably the clearest NOFO I've ever seen about kind of what it's about. And so I just wanted to take these few minutes to make that call out. Leslie, I definitely want to have you pipe in right now, but this is a golden opportunity for us to put our best foot forward as a region. And that's only going to happen if we get input from everybody about making sure we have a compelling case that maximizes the impact across all 8 covered populations, but does so with the most expedient number of organizations. So they have to be large partner organizations that can cover that across all the needs.
My recommendation is, can somebody please take the lead on organizing organizations to respond? As you're saying, if the more organizations who come together, the stronger the application.
I'm saying, I think Kansas City Digital Drive, Ina is already doing that. I think my point is we're just wanting to make sure that we're all working with Kansas City Digital Drive to help make sure we fill any gaps and make sure we we have the most compelling case and that we identify and support the strongest lead applicant. Because we
Okay.
haven't decided that yet. So Leslie, go ahead. You've had your hand up.
You can, but we still haven't, go ahead, Leslie, but we still haven't.
I just wanted to point to the webinar that's at noon that NDIA is having. Those are super helpful to break it down into, more understandable terms for people who have not been living and breathing this legislation. So definitely recommend that. Also put in a link to the Digital Equity Act survey that we've been doing. We are only at this point trying to understand, what people are already doing, what they would like to do, and that is the place where we are. So we are definitely an information gathering stage, and yet, we don't have the luxury of taking a lot of time to do that. But if you haven't already, we'd love to hear from you. And it takes a few minutes to fill out that survey so that we can just get a broader picture of what's happening in our ecosystem.
Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead,
Leslie,
Aaron.
have you organized any, sorry, Leslie, do you guys have any other information gathering meetings set up or office hours specifically related to this grant?
Yeah, so we have office hours that will be next Friday at 9 o'clock, and I can put the link to that in the chat so people can get that, and we can come together to talk about it more. Again, this does not mean that we think we're necessarily going to be the lead applicant. We are simply gathering the information.
Right.
Thank you.
I've got a quick question here. So in terms of the input and the data gathering.
And if you don't mind, Aaron was waiting real quick. Aaron, you had a comment?
Go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say, I mean, that this is, I mean, to kind of Leslie's point, I mean, this is, I mean, I'd say this is maybe like wave 2, 3, or 4 of data collection. So we've got a lot of information. I don't want people to think they're over surveyed and, we're asking and we're going to take this inventory. So understand that there has been a lot of this, and this, the survey that Leslie pointed to is kind of to Tom's point, a bit more specifically pointed to the Digital Equity Act. It is going to inform our approach both to the nationally competitive grant, which is the NOFA that's open now. One thing that was a little bit surprising, I think from where we were 6 months ago, is that the nationally competitive grant ended up coming ahead of any opportunity to respond to the state grant competitions. And so, that's part of what we're thinking about strategically is when we look at what people are working on and the things that they want to do and how we best fund them, we may want to kind of think through how do we, push some of those activities towards the nationally competitive grant and some of them towards the state capacity grants when they're out. So survey, office hours, and also if anyone just wants to reach out one-on-one or talk or understand or get a better picture, please email Leslie or me. We're happy to have that. Or if you think that there's somebody missing, or if you hear from somebody that they haven't been, part of the process, there's a lot of people out there. We've gotten a lot of good feedback and we've had a lot of engagement, but certainly, haven't hit everyone. The one other thing that I would say, and is not, I mean, there's maybe a little bit different lens, in terms of the applications. We are looking really across both Kansas and Missouri. And so our kind of thought when the final came out, that it's 5 to 12 million is what they're looking for, and they signaled this a month or two ago. There may be 4 or 5 applications that come in across the states of Kansas and Missouri. So not only are we looking sort of complementary about what a regional proposal looks like, and we know St. Louis is working on a regional proposal as well. But there are some things, perhaps around devices or connectivity, that may lend themselves to, by state. And so there's, there are some ways to look at this in which, I mean, certainly there's one way that you've got like a $12 million cap on what might come out of Kansas City. But if you look at a 30 or $35 million cap that might cover Kansas and Missouri, that may be overly ambitious, but there could be ways to do some statewide programming that also come into Kansas City that help to benefit our region more. So we're number one, kind of trying to look at what is a a quilt or a patchwork of grant applications supporting really the whole of the two states. I mean, there could be even some that are more states. The other thing, and this is something that's come up in other regional grant work. I mean, I think Tom's right, that if we have one really strong submission, that really covers the region, that is probably best. But at the same time, I'm a little bit less convinced that it's the only path, and meaning that if there's somebody else, because we know, and we've seen this in other, there are other people that really want to submit something. Our job is not to tell people that they can't submit or don't do other things. We want to have a broad coalition and invite people to participate and be as inclusive as we can. I mean, I know there are some economic development grants. I have never seen and have judged, some number of grant competitions. I've never seen someone say, well, there's two really strong applications, but we're not going to fund either of them because there's two. So I think our effort is, really geared towards building strong applications. We know there are some organizations that are interested in submitting for this, that have their own programmatic needs. And, if they get folded into a regional approach, that's great. And if they end up thinking, well, we've got to go this one on our own, and that may be some of you here, I think we want to support that too. We really want to support people to do what's best for their organizations, but also what's best for the region, and figure out how to make those things align.
And just quickly, they're anticipating 150 to 200 awards nationally.
Right.
Wow.
So to that point, and I've got to jump in here. So as you guys are gathering data from an input and a survey perspective, so you're gathering the data, but are you also going to consider the cost that these entities are going to submit to you? Because I won't speak for Ron. Ron has a cost for his services. So will Ron submit his capabilities, his services, and his cost, to do these services? Because to Ron's point, he won't be here if he don't get some funding, right? So my question again, are you just looking for data from folks, or are you looking to build a fiduciary type model where you all will receive the funding and then you decide how much you'll give to everybody? What is the business model here? I'm not clear on that. I think I reached out to Aaron. He provided some insight, but it's not clear on the business model that you guys are approaching it. Again, are you just collecting data, or are you collecting data and cost to deliver these services? Just a question.
No, it's a good question.
We're at 10 minutes till 12. That's a big question. And
can I just say one quick thing, Ina, which is the letters of commitment will outline all that. So it's kind of a two-step process. Who's interested, and then outlining what it looks like.
Okay, so if you don't mind, Mr. Yancey, if you have additional need for information, you can take advantage of scheduling some time with Kansas City Digital Drive.
Yes.
And as I said, guys, I'm committed to working with Kansas City Digital Drive. We have no choice. We have to work together to make the strongest application. So some of you have spent more time working with Aaron and Leslie and Kansas City Digital Drive. I've been with them for the last 8 years. I also have groups that I've worked with. Whoever you're comfortable with, reach out to us. We've got to make this work together. And Kenneth, to your point, there is a huge difference, as Aaron pointed out, between this NTIA grant, which is a large grant that's got to go to organizations that are large enough to demonstrate the impact across those covered populations. Whereas the capacity grants on the state side are going to allow for smaller, opportunities for groups like what Ron's talking about and others. So let's make sure you read the NOFOs and be clear about how we're differentiating. And I think if you're right to say, what's the business model?
No, Tom, I've already been through the NOFO. I have converted.
Please, we can get that going. We have a survey that we need to have completed, if you guys don't mind. I appreciate all the information, but we need to honor people who are here and who need to get off at 12 o'clock. We have 7 questions, if you could please go through. and answer that poll. And I think we still have community announcements to get to. Sorry, but we do have to honor everybody's time.
I'd like to add as well, as I prepare the newsletter, follow-up newsletter for this meeting, which will go out next week. If you have something you'd like to share with the group and we just didn't have time or you weren't comfortable speaking up or anything, please just email it to me directly, digitalinclusion@kclibrary.org. And we will be sure to get that out to our coalition folks. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right, we're sitting at 11:55. Does anybody have, after you finish your poll, does anybody have any community announcements, any events or activities you have coming up?
Yes. Hello, everybody. Mike Graham with Vineyard Neighborhood Association. And August the 6th at 6 p.m., we will have our National Night Out Against Crime, plus a 55-year anniversary of existence. So everyone is welcome to come out.
That's today, Mr. Graham?
August the 6th.
I didn't hear him.
August the 6th at 6.
August the 6th at 6. Okay. Do you have a flyer or anything you can send Wendy?
I do.
Okay. That is the Vineyard Association, right?
Vineyard, yes. 4301 East 43rd. But I'll send the flyer.
Okay. Thank you. Ron, your event's not till September 24th, right?
That's
Do you have
correct.
a flyer, Ron, to send?
Yeah,
Can you send
I
it to Wendy?
put a link in earlier. I can put it back in again if you want to know more about that.
I'll grab it from the chat. Thank you so much.
And I think that was it. Community announcements. We got the survey in. You guys know the importance of data and information for improvement. So that is the purpose of that. And we will do that at the end of every meeting. Just get your opinion, if you will, on how the meeting went, what we have done better. Did you like the content? Was it applicable to you? So we'll start gathering that information as well. All right, if that is it, we've got 2 minutes. Unfortunately, I can't open up the floor because I don't see any 2-minute people. I don't see any 30-second comment people.
I'm done. That was an exciting time. Thank you, everybody. Very exciting times. Thank you, Tom. I'll reach out, Tom. I'll reach out.
We will see you guys next month at Goodwill on 18th Street at the Goodwill facility. That is the next meeting. And everybody have a great weekend. Have a great month. Thank you.